Don't you just love a good love story?
Love is like that. It's the light that is part of your life. It's unconditional.
There's something there for all of us. There's hope that we can get through this and find some joy in our lives.
He's always been the one.
Self-love is a love story too.
Those little sparks of joy are really important.
Imagine someone making your biggest dream come true.
It's important for people to understand that you're not alone.
Well, we love to be part of a Canadian love story.
The love story never ends.
Well, love is the most important thing.
When you pack your bags and leave for work, the hug goodbye and that love and smirk as you promised us you wouldn't be too long. I never understood the distance, only understood time and how much at night you'd cross my mind as I laid in bed wondering where you'd gone. And it takes me back to being a kid and when he was traveling back and forth from going overseas. And, you know, it's true, I never understood just how far away he was going. I just knew he was going away to sing.
When she passed me that song, I wrote back, I never thought I'd ever understand how I'd fit into this master plan until the day I took your hand in mine. Your mother laid you in my arms, you took a breath, and you took my heart, and there and then every single star aligned.
Hi, I'm Nancy Regan. Today's love story belongs to the Guthrows, and it's in the key of C for connection. I'm joined in the studio by award-winning singer-songwriter Bruce Guthro, a guy who's found fame on both sides of the Atlantic, his rising star daughter, Jodi, and the captain of the good ship Guthro, Kim. The only reason Dylan Guthro couldn't be here? Well, he's too busy making a splash in Nashville. This is the Canadian Love Map. Welcome, Guthrows.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks for having
us.
Oh my gosh, I've been looking forward to this. Kim, it's really just a trick to get you in here. You know, I brought the singers in just so that they would accompany you. What can you tell me about this musical language of love that your family speaks?
Oh my gosh, where would I start with that? It's been such a journey and such a joy to be part of the Guthro family music career and, you know, life, really. Started many years back when, from the very beginning, from when we were together, that music has been such a big part of our family and it continues to this day. So I'm just so happy to be part of the whole journey.
She's the glue.
She is, isn't she?
She is the glue.
So
No
I
question.
went to both of your songwriter circles, Bruce and Jodi, in December, and I heard that message loud and clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mom gets mentioned every now and then up there, yeah.
Well, I guess we all have our part to play in the business and in the journey, and you know, because we all have our special, unique abilities, and it all just works that way. So, you know, I take my abilities and run with that, and then they have theirs, and we put it all together, and it seems to work. So
it's wild how much goes on behind the scenes and what it takes to put on a songwriter circle, even like that. Just, you know, running around for my show. I know she was delivering all the tickets personally to the tables, and, you know, it's just all the behind the scenes to make it all work.
Well, I call it
Takes a village.
The left brain versus the right brain. I'm all the left brain. You know, I take care of all the numbers and the logistics that way, and leave the creativity to who it belongs to.
And I sleep very well because she does that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I need a Kim in my life. I joke I have no left hemisphere in my brain.
We all do. We all do. No, it's she's amazing, actually, to keep she's the glue of the family when everyone's busy and touring and traveling and doing this and everything else, and you know, handles all the books and the finances and everything that comes through, and I'm terrible at that stuff. So I mean, it's just, and then when we started actually dating, I didn't even play music really. I wrote and sang in the living room, but I wasn't out and about, so I was managing a gym, actually.
You read my mind, because that's exactly where I was taking you. We were going to do a little time travel,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going to ask you, when was the first time you laid eyes on your now wife?
You have to tell the jogging story.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, she used to have this old, I forget what truck was it.
It was a 1974 Ford.
It was before the seatbelt law. It must have been, because I used to see her driving around town with like 7 girls packed in the front seat of that. And I always thought, she's cute.
Is that in Sydney
In
Mines?
Sydney Mines, yeah. And then I was doing a bit of running back then, and so was she. And there's a new high school that was built called Memorial High, and there was a long road that, just that you could run up there and back again. It was a nice little run away from houses and streets and stop signs and stuff. And literally, I was running up, she was running down. We caught each other's eye, and then we got about 30 yards past each other and both glanced back to check each other out.
Oh, I love it.
That's a true story. And that's where we first kind of noticed each other as far as in the town. And then I crashed a party at her house, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the love story.
Yeah.
I want to know what Bruce, what era was that? What was he wearing to run, Kim? Do you remember how he looked?
How short were the shorts?
Yeah,
I don't know if I want to know.
Oh, thank you, Jodi, for really explaining what I was asking.
He was pretty cute, I have to say.
I don't even remember what
the mullet and the mustache combo just really got her.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's beautiful. And so you then met at a party.
Yeah, I just crashed. Kim used to have parties, that was Sydney Mines. There wasn't a lot going on, so everybody would have a house party, but they had a lot. And I just kind of showed up uninvited, and that's where we kind of met and talked for a little while.
But then we went our separate ways for a few years.
That's true. We dated a few times, and Kim headed to Vancouver.
Oh, all the best love stories go like that.
Yeah.
Right?
And then she came back, and I remember there was a bar in North Sydney called Raffles on the main street, and Seamus McNeil and I, of the Barry McNeils, walked in, and Kim was sitting there with her friend, I believe it was Kim Tobin, and I went like, wow, because I had heard she was married and out in BC and all that sort of stuff.
Which I wasn't.
No, but you were out in BC,
Yeah.
just not married. I was pleasantly surprised to see you sitting there with your friend, and we managed to get a couple of seats at the same table, and then the rest is really history. Then we started dating full time, and
so we're in year 35.
Oh,
right now.
congratulations. Wow.
Yeah.
I am curious about what role music played in both your lives growing up in Cape Breton, because of course that island is renowned in Canada and really around the world for being a mecca of music and musicians.
For my family, music was always part of our world. My grandparents on both sides were very musical. My dad's side especially, and actually my mom's side too. My grandfather on mom's side played the fiddle. And there was always accordions and guitars, and we grew up with a piano in our house, so there was singing, and we were part of choirs, my sisters and I. So from the get-go, music was a huge part of our life. So the transition into, our family as the Guthro family with music, it just is completely fitting with, my soul, really.
How many sisters in your family?
I have 4 younger sisters.
Oh, my goodness.
So I'm the oldest of 5 girls.
They're somewhat famous, I believe, the Anderson girls, right?
oh, they would be in Sydney Mines.
I guess
Famous in that town, that's for sure. And as for me, music wasn't a big part of the household other than the record player. I was the first to kind of play, and there was 9 of us, play guitar or sing. Well, that's not true. We all sang in festivals and growing up through the schools and that sort of stuff. But to take it on professionally or to try and write or to try and learn an instrument, I was the first to do that. And but I did, as Kim said, partake in her side of the family and the music and stuff at every Christmas party or whatever party was going on. Eventually, someone, doing coffee shops and singer-songwriter things, and people would call me up and start a little band. The first band gig there was 4 people at. 4 people in Sydney Mines, and 2 of them got in a fight, and we lost half our crowd.
Oh, stop.
Yeah. True story. Oh, it was
that is a Cape Breton story if I ever heard
it.
The Barry McNeils were a huge influence, I had mentioned, and they were friends of both of us. And they would have these parties that would be notoriously go on for 3 days.
So the Bear McNeils, for those who don't know, are a group of 3 men and 1 woman. And at that time, they were boys and girl.
That's right.
And I saw them quite a bit when I was working on CTV Atlantic in the early days.
Yeah, amazing musicians. They just lost their mom the last couple of days, Jean, God rest her soul, amazing woman. Just a fantastic group of people, just in terms of kindness and but also in terms of musicality. We go, going to their parties, it was just, the tunes just would not stop. They would literally go for 25 minutes at a time. One set of tunes would keep going, and someone would push the stuff that was about to fall off the piano back onto it while Seamus was just pounding on it. And I was just enthralled with it all. And I would just sit and listen, and then they'd stop and they'd say, "Tell us a joke, Guthro, or sing us a song." And very encouraging. And growing up in that little town and that whole island and befriending all those musicians and being nurtured by them and accepted by them and encouraged by them was huge part of my musical upbringing.
And you're one of many, really. That's the thing about when I say it's a musical vortex. What you're describing is you saw role models who were already making music a career.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see a path that's there. A lot of people don't have that opportunity. They don't see people who are doing that. They think, oh, I got to be a lawyer or a dentist or what have you. So that's amazing. And how did your career really get rolling, would you say?
Well, I did everything to support the musical habit. I did everything from roofing to, I was a bricklayer's helper. I went out west when I was 17 years old and worked in a hard rock mine.
You were down in the mine?
Yeah, 3,200 feet underground. Wow. Uranium mine. So I did everything I could to afford my habit of wanting to make a living in the music industry. And eventually I actually started to make a living in the music industry and put several bands together, and that broke up, and as you would in the Cape Breton bar scene. And eventually I just kind of decided I had to, the only way I would progress on this is put my name in front of the band and not have it break up. So we did that and started to build a little following. The Bear McNeils, again, introduced me to Glenn Meisner at CBC at Studio H there when they were doing, forget the name of the show, but...
Oh, I know. I can just see it.
Yeah. And Glenn was working with Brooks on a Stan Rogers tribute. I ended up getting involved in that and writing a tribute song to Stan, which ended up closing the show, which opened some doors. Natalie McMaster was doing Atlantic Airwaves at the time and liked my writing and asked me to be on her show, then asked me to write a song for her record, which I did, and then she liked it, and I sang on it, played it at the ECMAs. Steen Cameron, who was the president of EMI, heard it, liked it, wanted to sign me, and everything just kind of rolled quickly in a 2 or 3 year period.
Isn't it beautiful when it snowballs like that?
It was awesome.
It's like a path just opens up, and you just are along for the ride.
Yeah. It really was, wow. and Brooks was managing
Brooks
at the time, and doing a great job of it. So
he's a legend.
He is, yeah. A lot of the current Halifax managers kind of came through that Brooks's office to learn the ropes.
Well, I want you to know that Natalie and Danelle were on the Love Map podcast last year, and Brooks and Fiona Diamond are in my sights. So.
Oh, they'd be perfect for it as well.
They would.
And so would Nat and Danelle. They'd be awesome as well. I'm sure they were.
So we're going to get to the kids' musicality as well, but we can't not talk about Run Rig because you had a really pivotal thing happen when you had an opportunity overseas.
Yeah, I just did my first record with EMI, which was Of Your Son, which did really well, went gold, and I had a number one single.
Let me say that name again for everyone. Go look for this right now, Of Your Son. Beautiful album.
Yeah, so it did really well, and everyone seemed happy in the camp. And then I guess I need to tell it from their perspective. The Run Rig's lead singer left for politics.
And this is a Scottish band.
Exactly.
They were huge in Europe, right?
They were massive, yeah. And they were like the Grateful Dead of their territory, very culty, but like in their heyday, they were all young, handsome Highland Scots, and literally in their heyday put 50,000 people in a field for their own show that they promoted themselves. Yeah. So their lead singer, for whatever reason, decided he had enough of
And
the
he went to
music.
politics, yeah. Right.
He went to politics, failed his bid, but he took a run at it. They were looking for a lead singer. Their manager's son was driving a team of Huskies in northern Canada and heard fiddle and bow.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, and said that voice could be the voice. They had auditioned like 300 people. Now, everyone who went to that audition in Scotland were terrified because they were legendary in Scotland. So, and they just didn't find the voice that would fit the band, is what I was told. And they called Brooks. Their manager called Brooks and said, we'd like him to come over and audition. Here's who we are and here's what we've done. And Brooks said, who? Runrig. Okay. No. Thank you, but no. We're on a nice little roll ourselves right now.
You don't want to interrupt that. When you've got a flow going, you're in the zone.
And EMI owned me globally. We did a national, international deal. So I Googled them and looked and thought, oh my, I don't know. This is an opportunity we should maybe not be passing up.
Because you realized it could serve, not only would it not interrupt, but it could really serve your career here.
Exactly. She called back and said, look, the least you can do and come over and meet the guys. We'll pay for the tickets. So Brooks and I said, we've never been to Scotland. Let's go to Scotland. And landed in Glasgow, met the guys. And it took me all of about half an hour to realize I really like these guys and I really like the music. Typically in band fashion, half of the band were very welcoming and wanted me and thought I was the guy, and half the band wasn't quite sure if I was the guy. And
oh, really? Long
story short, the audition went really well, and then I had to come back and see if we could actually make it happen. Brooks agreed. That probably wouldn't be a bad thing.
I got to go to Kim for a second here. Mm-hmm. What was your perspective on all this at the time?
It was mind-boggling, to be honest. It was, okay, we have a couple of young kids, and you're going to go, what?
Time out.
You're going where?
With
whom?
Were we living in Hammond's Plains at this point in time, or were you guys still in Cape Breton?
We were literally in the process of
were moving,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you were moving with two young kids, and he was going to go off to Scotland.
And she was starting a new job.
And be a rock star. Oh.
Yeah. So
You're a teacher,
was...
right?
I am. Yes, I am. I wasn't at the time, though. I wasn't back then. I was working at a hospital in Cape Breton, and I had got a job at Bell Alliant, actually, in Halifax. So we moved here just as his career with Runrig was starting. It was a difficult time. I'm not going to lie. It was hard, but, he couldn't give up that opportunity. We couldn't give up that opportunity. We just knew that he had to take that path. So, we just buckled down and did what we had to do to make that happen.
But the fact that you've made it to 35 years of marriage is made all that more significant by that story.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was amazing through it all. I would never have been able to do that without Kim and knowing full well that with the kids and be looked after. And it was tricky. She ended up keeping the job at MT&T too long, just because we realized that we didn't want strangers raising our kids. Mm-hmm. That was a busy time, but it's one of those things. The sun is shining. Let's make the hay, because those opportunities don't come often.
How strange was it to find this whole other level of fame all of a sudden?
A stage is a stage. I always kind of figured that, whether it's easier to play in front of 10,000 than it is 10. And, because you got the production and behind you and the band behind you. And it was more strange coming from a solo career to a band situation. That's right. What was really difficult for me. Because with the band situation, you're voting on everything. Nobody ever agreed on anything. It worked out. We had to be very well organized in terms of what was coming in the future, planning literally years out. We made agreements that if I was booked with Runrig, no matter what offer came across Bruce Guthrow's desk, it couldn't be taken because I was booked with Runrig, and vice versa. So you can imagine the friction that would bring.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah, they would get a massive festival offer, and I'd be playing Stanfest. So I can't do it. I'm already booked. I contracted for Stanfest. So sorry, boys. You have to, man. You know how much money they're after. Yeah. Well, you know the deal, and you know the drill. No, it was cool. It was great. There's nothing quite like standing in front of 10 or 20,000 people and having them sing back every word to you and feel that energy and have that big sound and production behind you. It's a whole unique experience compared to doing a songwriter circle where you and your acoustic guitar. Just a different kind of beautiful. I enjoy both equally. Mm-hmm. I miss the big stage a little bit sometimes. But man, I love doing just stripped down, bringing it down to what it's all about, which is the writing of the songs more than probably anything.
I love listening to that. I have to say the Songwriter Circle, which we're going to get to, is something that gives me so much joy to participate in. Well, not participate, as a listener.
Yeah, well, hopefully you feel like you are.
La, 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 la. We couldn't share the great stories that we do here on the Canadian Love Map podcast without the amazing support of Charm Diamond Centres. They are Canada's largest family-owned jeweler, and they're proud to be putting love on the map. The folks at Charm Diamond Centres are thrilled to be a part of your love story. So visit charmdiamondcenters.com or one of your local stores. Love starts here. When did the kids start to show a tendency toward being musical?
They kind of developed separately that way.
I was going to say, it was definitely a very different times.
Yeah. Dylan, when he was following me around with his little half-size guitar when he was 4. Mm-hmm. And Kim was not only the glue and the organizer for everything that was going on, she was also the
videotaper.
Videotaper. There's a better word than videotaper, but that's exactly what I was trying to look for.
Videotaper back.
So she was holding the camera, so I bet there aren't that many pictures and not a lot of video of her.
No.
That's really mother's curse, right?
Yeah.
But she did, they're from that high to that high, there's hundreds of videotapes of them. And so Dylan's there being a songwriter and belting out and just, hitting the guitar. And then he started to actually learn how to play and he progressed very quickly in terms of being able to play. And then he started playing bass and he was like, he's the musical guy in the family, way more than me. Like his musicality, it's just I could live 3 lifetimes and not be able to play like him. That's a gift, probably from both sides of the family, like Kim's musical side as well. And then Jodi, I would say more in her mid-teens, early teens.
I actually remember I was 13 or 14, and I was watching one of the old home videos, and I hadn't picked up the guitar really yet at this point. And there was a video of Dylan. He was about 4, and he was playing bar chords, and he was playing Sweet Home Alabama or something like this. And I was like, okay, it's time. Like, he's 4, and he's like, it's time to learn.
Game on.
I was always really into writing like poetry. I was more into the lyrics and the songwriting and everything. I'm not as musical.
Gifted at it, may I add. It's, she had writing was always such a huge part of the process for me. And so I think it just kind of in turn flipped over to both Dylan and Jodi. And Dylan being the musicality of the family and being incredible on everything. Like he plays drums, bass, keyboards, produces, writes, does it all. There's also, I believe, a gift that is given to the soul to have the gift of the word is what I call it. So it's like, it's a bit of work, as you said earlier, meets just the gift.
Yeah.
And Jodi, in my opinion, was given the gift of the word. Like it's kind of just being able to craft together the lyric to make a great song is a true art. And the way some people can just take to a canvas with paint, she could take to a song with her lyric and melody ideas and always up and current on what was happening on radio and very clever with those little twists and turns. And she just started to blossom in her teens very quickly in terms of that. And then you got to witness it not long ago with the circle.
Tell me about that from your perspective, Jodi. What was that like once you decided, okay, if Dylan could play when he was 4, it's time for me? And what was the progress like from there?
I definitely don't have the natural musical ability the way Dylan does. But yeah, I really gravitated toward just writing songs and lyrics, and the guitar was kind of just a way to kind of get that out. It was just a platform, I guess. But it's funny, I look back now on songs that I wrote when I was like 15, 16, 17, and I'm like, I relate more to them now than I didn't even know what I was talking about back then. But everything is just so new to you at that age, and you're watching, and I would write songs about you guys and your love story, and because I hadn't experienced heartbreak or anything like that yet, but I could write about it. And it's interesting too. And I've never really limited myself to one genre either. I've kind of, as I've grown, I was really into pop in my early 20s and R&B, and now I kind of gravitate more toward singer-songwriter country style. And so, yeah, it's just interesting to see where it all goes.
How do you feel when you are on stage singing and playing?
Amazing. I love it. I hate the feeling right before you get on stage.
Yeah, don't we all?
And then you sit there and it feels like home. It feels, yeah, especially when you get to do it with your family members, you know, we got to tour across Germany and Denmark in 2019, the Christmas tour with Dad and Dylan. And it's incredible. And it feels like home because you are up there with your family and you're doing it together, and it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. For that songwriter circle, you assembled an amazing collection of voices. I don't want to say female voices because they weren't all female. Mm-hmm. One was non-binary, I believe. Mm-hmm. But that was a real moment, in my perspective, for you to really step into your power as a songwriter and a performer.
I said after the show, if you had told me even a year ago that I would have been hosting a songwriter circle, I would have thought you were crazy. It definitely took a lot, I want to say inner work to, you know, build the confidence and, you know, a lot of rehearsing and preparing to, you know, sit on the throne, following those footsteps. You know, it was a lot, but it was one of the most magical experiences of my life. I felt very proud afterwards.
You crushed it.
You crushed it.
She did crush it.
I sent her a note afterwards saying, you know what, you held the container in such a beautiful way. And that takes a really special talent. People don't understand, you know, what is involved in that.
Thank
so
you.
you did an amazing job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And the songwriter circle, the concept was kind of invented by your dad, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't, I mean, I'm sure there were people doing it. Like I kind of stole it from the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville. Kim and I went down very, very long time ago. I won a contest to give me a publishing deal to do a record in Nashville. And we went to the Bluebird at the time, and there was 3 very unassuming guys in T-shirts and ball caps sitting in the circle. And first guy strummed a song and said, well, you know, this one did okay for me. And started saying, blame it all on my roots. I showed up in boots. I was like, that's a guy who wrote that. Mm-hmm. And the next guy says, well, this one made a few mortgage payments for me. And he says, turn down the light, turn down the bed.
Oh my gosh, you give me chills.
Yeah, well, it gave, like I had to lift my chin off my chest. It was, my jaw dropped. And I thought, this is so cool. I said, you know, someone should do this on a bigger platform. Long story short, again, I took it home, brought it to the ECMAs, pitched the idea. They agreed. I think one of the first circles I had Rita McNeil and Dave Carmichael and Matt Minglewood were in it.
Imagine.
And from there, we did it for a while. And then every year I'd kind of organize the ECMA circle. And then it just got a little bit too, I don't want to say, well, I guess you could say political. So I just decided to let that go and then start my own, do them publicly and formed up a great partnership with Casino Nova Scotia, and they've been going now for 20 years.
Amazing. I better explain why Dylan is not here with us. We haven't excluded him, but he's otherwise occupied.
Yeah, he's back and forth to Nashville, but he's there a lot. Has a publishing deal down there, and it's, you know, speaking of crushing it, writing with Walker Hayes on a regular basis, and the who's who of the Nashville scene right now. So, yeah, he's living his best life right now. It's taken a long time for him to land on his feet where I think he believes and we all believe he belongs. And so we're also so damn proud of him right now.
Well, of course, Gordy Sampson started a song camp in Cape Breton years ago now, and I'm guessing that both you and Dylan went to that. Did you, Jodi?
We did. He started going a few years before me because I was pretty young when it first started. And then I think I was 19 the first year I went. And yeah, that has shaped both of us so much to have that community and to have that support and have all those role models like Mo Kenny, Bria Isabel, everyone that was there and I grew up looking up to. You learn so much. So yeah, that was a huge part of shaping, I think, both of our writing abilities.
And talk about seeing a path open to you. You know, Gordy has done so well in Nashville. Of course, he's the very famous writer of Jesus Take the Wheel and many, many other songs.
Yeah.
But it's that brotherhood, sisterhood that really happens in this part of the world where people mentor each other and support each other.
So true. So true. And no bigger one than Gordy, really. I mean, to do that song camp, it wasn't a for-profit venture. You know, it was literally just to nurture, help, and grow the young songwriting crop.
Give back.
Exactly. And has he ever? Like, I mean, there was a mentorship program he did in Nashville that he brought Dylan down for, which started that whole process. He's been introducing Dylan to his inner circles, which, of course, you know, Dylan's killing it.
Amazing.
You know, he's kind of like there. He only needs the introduction. Once he gets in there, he proves his worth himself. They hang out all the time. They spend every Friday night at Gordy's writing room, and he's like a second dad to him down there. And you know, we feel much more comfortable knowing that he's there, and you know that Dylan can reach out to him and Helen and Amelie, which is like a second family down there. So he's Gordy Sampson is just an amazing human being. Yeah. And a talented one, to say the least. You know.
We're so proud of him in Nova Scotia, for sure. I'm sure Cape Bretoners even more so. Jodi, you wrote a song that you brought home and sang to your dad, and then he added a verse. Can you tell me that story? Because that's one of the stories that came out of the songwriting circle, and I'm sure there wasn't a dry eye in the room.
Yeah, I was 17, I think, and Father's Day was coming up, and I didn't have any money to get Dad a Father's Day gift, so I thought I'd write him a verse and a chorus, or start a song at least. And so I did, and I sang it for him, and I was like, well, here's what I have so far. And then a few days later, he came back with the second verse and the other chorus, and we put it together, and it's one of my favorite songs I think I know I've ever written, because it's just so special, and it wasn't even intended to be that way. It just kind of, we just started doing it at shows together, and everyone kind of, you know, really connected with it. And now it feels empty if we do a show and we don't sing that song. Actually, at the Circle, we had one more round to do, and that I wasn't expecting at the show, because it was kind of going really fast. We still had some time to kill, so I got a little note on the side of the table there that said, Bruce says 2 more rounds. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have songs prepared. So I said, okay, well, we'll do our duet. And I called him out, and it was totally unprepared. And I called him up on stage, and we sang it together. And it ended up becoming a really great moment of the show, I think. So
it was, you know, everyone had chills and tears in their eyes. It was really beautiful. Can you sing a couple of lines of that?
We actually we debated bringing the guitar just to play that one, but
can you do that a cappella, or am I putting you on the spot?
We can do it. Do you want to do a chorus, or?
Sure.
I'll explain one line in the beginning of it too, because it's like it's one of my favorite lines in the song. But it's like, the when you pack your bags and leave for work, the hug goodbye and that love and smirk, as you promised us you wouldn't be too long. I never understood the distance, only understood time and how much at night you'd cross my mind. As I laid in bed wondering where you'd gone, and it takes me back to being a kid and when he was traveling back and forth from going overseas. And you know, it's true, I never understood just how far away he was going. I just knew he was going away to sing. He was going on an airplane, going away to sing. And I don't think I understood the magnitude of what was happening until I went over to Scotland and got to see it for the first time, in the massive crowd and the huge show. But
and you thought, that's my dad?
Yeah, I'm like, who is this guy in leather pants and sunglasses? That is not my dad.
So when she passed me that song, I wrote back, I never thought I'd ever understand how I'd fit into this master plan until the day I took your hand in mine. Your mother laid you in my arms, you took a breath, and you took my heart. And there and then every single star aligned. And then we just kind of reworked the second chorus, for which we'll sing to you right now.
Want to do it?
Sure. Do you want to pick a key for me? You start it.
Yes, I thank God.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Yes, I thank God every day for giving me your eyes. I wouldn't change a single thing about our crooked smile. Seasons flow and I watch you grow. I just hope to God you know that you can count on me.
I'll be by your side.
You can count on me. I'll be by your side.
Okay, where do we go from there? That is incredible. That song deserves to go big places.
It hasn't even been recorded yet. We were actually texting the other day. We were like, we got to record that. We got to lay that down.
No.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, you got to record that. And you know what? Gordy Sampson's going to get it into somebody's hands in Nashville. And the next thing we know, it's going to be winning a Grammy or a...
There you go.
Wouldn't that be nice?
There you go. You want to manage us?
Yeah. No, I think you've got the best manager in town right over there. Kim, what would you love to see? I started with you, and I'm going to turn it to you now that you're all emotional. What would you love to see for your kids' musical careers?
Boy, oh boy. Just to do whatever makes them happy, really. And I see that with Dylan in Nashville right now. Like he's killing it and loving it and making new friends, and Jodi, just whatever makes you happy in your music. I think that's the most important thing.
Jodi, what would you like to accomplish? Where would you like your career to take you?
It's so funny because in the last few years, I've really been on the fence of whether I want to continue with it or, start something new. And I've always loved the marketing side of being an artist and being in the industry. And when the pandemic started, I decided to go back to school and get my PR degree. And now I'm working on the marketing team at Charm Diamond Center, and that's been amazing. But music is still such a big part of me, and I would love to always just continue writing and continue working and just see where it takes me, and maybe host more songwriter circles in the future.
Absolutely. I think it'd be a big loss to the world if you were to stop. So I think it's a given that you'll need to continue just to fulfill your musical soul, from what I've witnessed. And again, it's just my opinion. Like Mom said, you got to do what makes you happy, but you don't necessarily have to get up every day and dive into that to still nurture it and love it and grow. So, I think you got the best of both worlds.
It's funny how there's speaking of hard work and then just the creative idea coming to you, that's where I find you and I are very similar in a sense where we might not write anything for a few months and then all of a sudden we just wake up one day and there's that idea and we have to just drop everything that we're doing that day and write the song. It's weird. And then where Dylan is more like, it's like a 9-to-5 job every day. He gets up 5 days a week and that's how his writing style kind of works. So it's interesting because that happened to me the other day when, you have that writer's block for a few months and you're like, is this gone now? Am I ever going to be able to write again? And then boom, you just wake up and it's there and you have to kind of grab it out of the universe and say it's mine and write the song.
I call it a bolt of enlightening.
Yeah, there you go.
That's great.
I love that.
It's like,
you're dealing with songwriters now. We're writing that down. Okay.
Bruce, I'm talking about the future for your kids, but you're not going anywhere because your fans will not let you stop. There's no question.
Thank goodness. I'm just, not unlike what Kim said. I'm just kind of doing what makes me happy these days. I'm not really touring, and I don't know if I will anymore. Like, I admire these guys. Like, I'll use Dave Gunning as an amazing artist and great friend. And they're just roadhounds. They can just go out and do 200 dates a year. Wouldn't be shocking to see Dave and people like JP and those guys do that. Matt Anderson. I don't want to do that anymore. I've got almost a million air miles, and I've traveled a lot across the world. And
Kim is nodding like she doesn't want you to do that either.
Time to slow down.
Yeah. So I love my circles. I love doing them. I certainly have built the contacts and friends to continue with them. And, I always take an interest in Jodi and Dylan's career. Dylan, not so much anymore because he's gone. But Jodi, I do still try and involve myself as much as possible in all aspects of it. So that, that'll keep us busy. And, we get places we want to go and things we want to see. And so I just kind of enjoy, just trying to enjoy life and certainly not retire, but take a step back from the grind, for lack of a better word, and just do what I want to do instead of what I have to do.
Right on. Well, thank you to your whole family for the beauty you're putting into the world.
Well, thank you. And congratulations on this podcast, by the way.
Thanks
It's been
for
awesome.
having us.
We've been creeping you. Is that the word they use?
Lurking.
Lurking. We've been lurking.
Pretty great job. I get to have conversations like this. Like I every time I think, I love my job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're great at it. That's probably why you love it.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you for having us.
Say hi to Dylan for us too.
Will do.
We'll be watching you all. I'll be creeping and lurking too. All right. Thank you so much.
Nancy.
Thanks for listening to the Canadian Love Map. If you love us, please subscribe and share. And if you want to help us spread the love even more, rate and review our podcast. It makes such a difference. We'll be back next week with another love story to add to the map. This podcast is presented and made possible by Charm Diamond Centers. It's hosted by me, Nancy Regan, and is produced and distributed by Podstarter.